Okay, great. For those that do not know me, I am Diane Berardi from the Wine Institute, and I want to welcome everybody to this webinar today. And I want to thank WUSADA for putting this together. I think this will be a very informative webinar for all of you. And I'm sure that you are going to find the information very valuable and want to sign up after the webinar. So again, thank you and welcome. Go ahead, Diana.
Go ahead, Chloe.
It's all yours.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Diane. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. I'm Chloe Mesh. I'm a engagement executive at WUSADA, and I cover Northern California. And so I'll be talking about who WUSADA is, as well as our members, and then we'll dive deep into the FundMatch program. So let's get started here. All right, so getting to know WUSADA. So we are an independent nonprofit trade association that works with the 15 member state departments as well as territory departments of agriculture. And the USDA, they help agribusinesses with their exporting efforts. And so we've been dedicated solely to focusing on exporting for 40 plus years. And so we are your partner and advocate with the USDA as well as our members. And our members include, like I said, the 15 member and state departments of agriculture that we work closely with. And so while we're not a government agency, we're closely linked to the state and federal departments of agriculture. And so each state has a agricultural marketing division that works in partnership with WUSADA to provide a mix of activities as well as services, which include like market research and overcoming just trade barriers, just to name a few. Our mission and vision. So our mission is to increase international growth of Western agribusinesses by providing that financial support, export readiness, and business development services. And so our vision for 2033 is for Western agribusinesses to thrive in world markets. And I'll pass it off to Diana to make her introduction and start speaking a little bit more about the FundMatch program.
Well, thank you, Chloe. And hi, everyone. I'm Diana at the FundMatch program. I am the liaison. And the next slides we're going to focus on are for the FundMatch program. So the first question is, what is the FundMatch program? And FundMatch is the funding program of WUSADA, which assists small, eligible Western agribusinesses and agricultural suppliers compete internationally by providing 50% reimbursement for eligible marketing expenses and activities to promote their brands and products of the USA. And how do you qualify for FundMatch? Well, you must be headquartered in that Western US region, which includes California, and you must be a small to medium agribusiness. Products must be at least 50% US grown, and you must be operating in business for 1 year. Now, listed on this slide are some of the activities that qualify for funding with FundMatch. And these are approved activities for the California Wine Institute in the top part. And they are approved California Wine Institute tastings, and they are live tastings in Japan and South Korea. Those are going to actually happen next week. And then we have Vancouver International Wine Festival, which happens in February 24th to March 3rd. We also have an approved tasting in Dublin and London this year in June, and they're called the summer parties for Ireland and UK. Now, other items that are covered or other shows that are covered are international, and we just had FinExpo this week in Paris. Pro Wine is coming up in March, and we have an expo in Asia, in Hong Kong in May. And those are some of the upcoming international shows that are winery focused. The FundMatch process, it includes, signing up with FundMatch and WSATA to be a participant. You must submit an application online. So you sign on to your WSATA account, select the FundMatch program applications for 2024, and you begin the online process. It'll take normally about 30 minutes to complete that process. You'll enter each one of your wines that you have, that you exhibit at your shows, and the application fee for that will be $250. Once the application is submitted into our office electronically, it is reviewed and approved. And once it gets to the approval status, you'll receive a contract to sign electronically. And you'll also have to have an invoice for the payment of your 6% admin fee for your funding amount. Now, what that means is, let's just take a minimum amount of funding of $2,500. That would mean that you had a $5,000 marketing budget for that country market at 50% equals $2,500 in FundMatch funding. 6% of that is $150. So you can kind of use that as a guideline when you're setting your marketing budgets. Once your contract is in place and your fees are paid, you're eligible to conduct your activities. And for instance, let's use Pro Wine as an example. It's coming up in March. You would go to Pro Wine. When you return, you have 60 days from the last day of the show to submit your claim. And during that time, you can start compiling your documentation, and you sign on to your WSATA dashboard again, and you're able to submit that claim online. Once the claim is submitted online, it's reviewed in our claims department. It'll take about 30 days for that to be reviewed. If there's additional documentation that is needed, we request that, and we give you 15 calendar days to get that back to us. But once we have everything together and we're able to finalize that claim, we send it forward for approval, and the funds are dispersed to the company. And that usually takes about 14 days. I want to talk about a couple of important items here. When you have an application for a particular activity, keep in mind that your application needs to be completed and you need to be contracted prior to that activity. That also includes if you want to add country markets or additional wines that you want to put onto your approved product list. So kind of keep that in mind, that when you are planning an activity, to sign on to your WSATA account and make sure that your application, of course, is in place and your contract is in place and that your budget for that country market is in place. We'll talk a little bit about funding. The first time exporters can receive up to $25,000 in funding with FundMatch in the first year. If you're an experienced exporter, you can receive up to $50,000. After the first year, you can request up to $300,000, but keep in mind that that would equal a $600,000 marketing budget. And the minimum allocation is $2,500, like we discussed previously. This next slide is about the origin statement. It's kind of the cornerstone of the FundMatch program. The point of our program is to market products outside the US. And so it's very important to have the US origin statement throughout your activities. It's not just your labels that you need to have your origin statement on. It's also throughout your activities, posted on your kiosks or in your booths where you're at, and in your photos that you submit for reimbursement. The eligible origin statements are product of the USA or product of America or grown in the USA, grown in America, made in the USA, product of California. Keep that in mind when you're selecting which one that you'll be using. If you ever have any questions with regard to the origin statement, always remember to reach out to us and we can guide you in that process. Let you know what you need for your labels to make your labels compliant and what you'll need in each of your activities. I always like to put this slide in because it's a good way to kind of see how the origin statement and the brand, your brand promotion should be within your activities. This avoids ineligible claims because if these items aren't there, then the claim will be ineligible because the lack of a brand name or US origin statement. Always remember to take photos because those are required to submit a claim for reimbursement as well. In this diagram, it kind of shows that they have the origin statement on the back banner, they have it on the kiosk and on these side banners. You know, that may be not what you want, you know, your particular activity to view like, but at least you would know where to place these items so that you can see them clearly in your photos. Now for trade shows, I'm going to kind of skip down a little bit down to wine tastings and events, but in trade shows, you are to be in the USA Pavilion if they have one. And for wine tasting and events, I'm getting kind of a feedback there. Oh. Pre-approval of these events need to happen through WSADA and USDA, and also Diane at the Wine Institute. She works closely with us. If we have any specific events that need approval, she'll work with our FundMatch manager and get those vetted for you. If you ever have a question on what is an approved wine tasting, please contact our office. Requests for exhibiting outside the USA Pavilion, if you do go to a show, you must request that within 60 days prior to the start of the show. So like I say, keep that in mind if you have a particular show that you want to go to or a particular tasting, give us a call and we can make sure that that's going to be an approved activity for you. These are some of the eligible expenses for our international trade shows. The exhibition fees and booth rental fees are eligible for reimbursement, as well as rental of temporary booth displays. If you want to have uniforms for your staff in your activity, if it has your brand and your US origin statement on it, those would be eligible for reimbursement. Temporary labor. If you have demonstrators in your activity, interpreters, translators, if you incur booth design expenses, those types of activities, those types of wages for temporary labor are eligible for reimbursement. Demonstration supplies, such as your cups and napkins, those are eligible, and also food purchased to enhance your product. Equipment rentals, like if you have refrigeration or toasters or anything like that that are rented for your activity, those are eligible for reimbursement. And also keep in mind freight, you know, to and from the show, the shipping of your samples, materials, and your equipment that you need to and from the show, that's eligible for reimbursement. Now the area that's always talked about is travel. Travel is eligible for your wine tastings and your trade shows. For airfare for 2 company representatives, they need to be round trip economy rates for the eligible dates of travel, which are 2 days before the show and a day after. And I always refer everyone to the guide, but keep in mind that if you want an itinerary that deviates from this 2 company representatives at an economy rate for the eligible dates of travel, you can do that. You have to pull a quote. And I always recommend for you to set some time aside with us so that we can go over your travel needs and instruct you in the proper way. And that, as I say, you can always reference these items in the guide. 2 representatives are allowed, and that can include your employees or any staff that you hire to represent your booth. There's also a per diem rate for meals and incidentals for 2 of your company representatives. This per diem rates, there is a link on our guide, and you can go out and look up what that country market is and what those per diem rates are. Lodging for 2 company representatives, that is eligible as well. And as I say, refer to the international travel section for the detailed information. For your lodging, you're eligible for those eligible dates of travel. And we just require that you make sure that you include a lodging folio from the actual hotel. Now, printed sales materials are also eligible. The production of banners, posters, signage, if you have recipe cards or company brochures, as long as you include the brand promotion and the origin statement, the printing and production and design of those printed materials can be eligible for reimbursement. Another area is giveaways. We do reimburse giveaways up to $4 per unit. However, the reimbursement's at 50%, so it would be up to a $2 maximum per unit. You know, giveaways are small in nature, so the U.S. origin statement is not required on them, but it does have to include your brand. Now, the claim documentation for these trade shows will include your invoices, your travel tickets, you know, all of your passenger tickets, your boarding passes. There'll be a kind of a list that you'll receive of those within the guide. And if you have a consultation with any of us, you will also receive that information as well on all the exact invoices that you'll need. When you have an invoice, it must include the vendor information and of course your company information on it, and then kind of a detailed breakdown of what each expense was. You must also include a proof of payment, and that includes the bank or credit card statement in a PDF format. You need to include the first page of that statement along with the page of transaction. If you pay by check, you have to include a check image. And if you pay by wire, you have to include the wire transfer request. For wine tastings, you should also include a copy of the announcement or invitation of the program. Travel notification is required. And the travel notification is now automated in our application on your dashboard, and it'll pop up under travel for ATO. Be sure whenever you're planning your events, pop out there to your WSATA dashboard and make sure that that travel notification gets completed. If a travel notification is not in place, then travel expenses will not be eligible. So it's a very important part of documentation. We're going to talk about photos. The following booth photos are required, and we require large-scale, all-encompassing photos of your booth or your kiosk or your table, whatever space you're in. And it needs to include that brand name and the valid origin statement. Supplementary photos of smaller sections of your area. If you end up having like a larger area, that's also required. And keep in mind, you may also provide a high quality video if you'd like that shows a close up of everything that you have and all the different areas. Also, a list of all the wines that you display will be required in your claim submission. And it's important for you to make sure to list and use only approved wines that you have on your list. If you exhibit a wine that is not indicated on your list, it may result in proration of that amount. So it's always important to double check your product list and make sure that you have those wines all available there. You must also include photos of the employees and representatives and temporary labor who are manning the booth during the trade show or wine tasting. Now, once you get home, I want to review this claim process timeline. I know we kind of briefly touched on that earlier. The participant submits the reimbursement claim online 60 days after the completion of the activity. And then once WSATA receives the claim electronically, we'll review it within 30 days of submission. If the claim is incomplete, WSATA will request the documentation and the company has 15 calendar days to provide the requested information for the claim. If we don't receive it, then we won't be able to process your claim. Once the claim is complete, WSATA will approve it and payment will take up to 14 days to be dispersed. There's a couple of slides here for tips for success. And I always recommend companies prior to your activity, sign on to your WSATA account and verify that the country market you're going to is listed there. You have it budgeted and that the products exhibited for the activity are approved. And that would mean checking all of your wines and making sure that your wine list is complete. Any changes or updates that you need to make online must be done and approved prior to your event. That's why it's good to go out there and do this. I would say even 30 days before you go. When you're ready to submit your claim, save some time and upload your documents onto your computer or laptop for easy use in the claims process. Our online program accepts several different document types, and it's always a good idea to maybe kind of start compiling that as you go prior to your trip. And as always, please contact our office if you need any assistance with the online claim submission as well. Usually once you get through your first claim, it's a pretty easy system to work in. So once you get through your first claim, you're good to go. Some more tips for success are you can meet with the FundMatch liaison during your application process, and I can consult you with your marketing budgets and all of the information and details that you may need or questions that you have in the application process. I always suggest to read that guide. Having a good understanding of the FundMatch guide is really important, especially in the travel section, because that's the area that applies most to your industry. And it's just important to have a good feel for the program and have a good experience the first time that you have to submit a claim. And then, of course, this particular presentation is currently being recorded and it'll be uploaded onto our website. And Diane will also have a copy of this as well, and you'll be able to refer to it in future whenever you need to and you get ready to sign up. And if you are not a WSATA participant today, feel free to go to our website at www.wasada.org and click sign up, and it'll ask you for the details of your company and of your company's team. And you'll go through a little bit of a vetting process, but once your profile is accepted and approved, then you'll be able to have access to our website. And you'll be able to see all the opportunities that we have. There's more opportunities than just FundMatch. There's Global Connect program. They offer approved outbound trade missions. There's lots of different events that come up. So certainly feel free to do that. And once you get into the website and any questions you have, feel free to reach out and we will answer any questions. And that brings us to the end of our presentation today. First, I want to thank everybody. I saw some familiar names out there, and I just want to make sure to say hi to everyone in advance. And also, make sure to reach out to me at diana@wasada.org or any of these resources that we have listed here. You can call in at any time if you have any questions with regard to the FundMatch program. I think at this point, we are going to head to the question and answer period. Hopefully, if you have any questions, be sure to just put them in the chat and we can get them answered for you.